What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, and welcome into another edition of MVP Sports Live right here on our own YouTube channel. If you're new to the show, this is the daily sports show where we talk about all the happenings going on in the sports world. Usually, we pick a sport for the day. We talk about it this entire week. It is playoff week, so we're talking about the NBA. We got playoff games all bound for the NBA. So that is what we are talking about. If you are somebody that's coming in going, man, there are also hockey games, we don't have any resident hockey fans on the team right now. I think I'm joined, as I sometimes am, with my beautiful co-host, Soapy Muffin.
Hey.
Soapy, I think, am I the only one that's kind of like the pseudo hockey fan of the MVP team?
Absolutely.
I'm the only one, like, willing to get into it, like, willing to give it a try, because I used to be a big fan and then got out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest, like, I used to watch hockey when I was
Yeah.
younger. The only thing is, like,
Well, the
every
Red Wings
sport
were
I watch,
good.
my fucking team stinks.
The Red Wings were good, man. They were good back then.
Yeah, dude, Geyserman, fucking, that's the only one I remember.
Pavel Datsyuk, baby.
Yeah, there was that guy, there was the other guy. Like,
Zed-
dude, I literally, like,
Zetterberg.
yeah, like, literally, I used to watch hockey. I literally only remember Geyserman. That's the only one I remember.
Also, Devin in YouTube chat saying, let's go! As we got a jam-packed show today talking Soapy. We're not talking about hockey because Jake has literally said live on, like, hot mics that it is not a sport. Like, he treats hockey like you treat golf.
Bro, I'm just saying, golf is not a sport. I will fight people on this. Hockey, I can see an argument for it. Because I like this is the thing. It does take a physical strain on your body because
Yes.
ice skating fucking sucks.
Yeah. Golf
Well,
is a sport, man. It's competitive.
Bro, in golf, you stand still and swing the fucking club. If you get tired from that, you're like either 75 years old, fat, or you've never been outside before.
It is competitive competition, but we're not talking about
All right,
any
cool.
of that.
So my fucking my child's bingo game is a sport then.
Hey man, ESPN de Ocho. That's where you got. That's where you got to catch it every single day. But we are getting into a lot of NBA topics today, talking about the playoff games that happened last night. We're also talking about some news. Soapy and I had an interesting discussion. The whole reason how this show kind of happened for today is there was news about a mid-season playoff or mid-season tournament for the NBA. Soapy and I had a nice discussion. I said, you know what, we should go ahead and have that discussion. I agree with Oh No in YouTube chat. Golf is a sport, and yes, Oh No, I have listened to Robin Williams talk about the game of golf. It is one of my favorite comedian just stand-up bits of all time. Dave and I love that Robin Williams bit about the game of golf. But before we get into everything, though, let's get through the housekeeping. Number one, join the Discord server if you have not already. It is truly the best community, the greatest community in all the land, in the universe. Even aliens are trying to get in to the MVP Discord. And like I tell them, I go, yo, aliens, you can get into it. All you got to do is have a computer. And they go, I don't know, our computers are probably too high tech. And I was like, you're probably right. Link is down below in the description. Whether you're watching live or not, it is in the description. Go ahead and click it right now. If you want to support us, go to patreon.com. Link is also in the description. You can get rewarded for supporting us if you want to. Thank you to our Patreon sponsor, Pat Hill. We are live every Monday through Friday right here on our YouTube page, usually around 6 p.m., between 6 p.m. and 6:30 Central Time, usually after we are live on our other channel, our sister channel, brother channel, however you want to call it, MVP Entertainment. Soapy and I just did games live, and it was a blast. But Soapy, we got sports live right now. We're talking about both the playoff games. We're going to start with the East game from last night. The Milwaukee Bucks straight up committed a felony last night against the Miami Heat. Like, it goes back to one of the lines that, Basically, it's like somebody call the cops because the Bucks just committed child abuse against Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. There might have been a murder that happened in that game. Soapy, here's the question I'm going to ask, and I'm going to be real frank with you. I'm going to be ESPN-y. I'm going to be first take with this. Dave is going to roll his eyes when I ask you this question. Are the Bucks for real, man? Are they for real? Can they make a finals run this year based off of their first 2 games of these playoffs?
See, I don't want to just do like the reactionary, like, hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah.
No, but I think they're looking a lot better. Like, they're looking a lot better than I thought this team would be. Obviously, I came into this playoffs kind of knowing the Bucks' kind of fraudulent playoff history. Like, they look good in the first round, and they normally kind of falter once it hits the second. So, but obviously, like, they've looked a lot better than I thought they were. I thought this Heat team would be able to step it up and kind of perform on a much better level than they obviously are. And obviously, it is coming from the fact of, I mean, even the people at the top of the Heat aren't playing the best. Jimmy Butler shooting 40% from the field. It's not ideal. He's not really having a great series so far. I think it's just right now, I think the Bucks are looking really good. Yeah. And I don't want to discredit the Bucks too much. I almost wonder if it's just they're looking so good because the Heat were the bubble team. Like, they played good because the bubble. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of where I'm sitting with this team. Of like, I still want to see them in a second round matchup before I start saying like this team's like for real. And it's just because the fact of right now, like, the Heat are looking like they were frauds last year.
See, you brought out the word. You brought up the F word, Soapy. You brought up the word frauds. And for me, I don't want to call Miami frauds because the whole thing I was saying, we're discussing the game as it was going on last night, chilling UI and Jake. And Jake loves the Heat losing. He does not like Jimmy Butler or the Heat. I know you are not a fan of the Heat, but it's not really the team of why you don't like the Heat. It's more of like how, like with me, with the Cavs, where being a Bulls fan, you being a Pistons fan, the fan bases kind of get at each other.
Well,
but
I mean, it's not so much of.
I don't wish you didn't like the fan base.
Yeah, it's the fan base. It's not because I'm a Pistons fan. Because I got so fucking tired of every year. Sorry, this is my little rant.
Go ahead, rant away. Rant away.
This is what annoyed me about the Heat. When the Heat were, like, mediocre as hell and making the playoffs at, like, the 7th or 8th seed, I got so tired of hearing every year, oh, this is the team to be scared of. You should be scared of us. Like, I'm not scared of Whiteside. All I'm scared of is Whiteside, like, getting mad and, like, making an Instagram video about me. That's, like, the most I was scared of that team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because, like, I was saying last night, I don't want to make a judgment. Like, is being down 0-2 to the Bucks a good thing? No, it's not a good thing at all. Because now you have to dig yourself out of a hole. Now, the good thing is they're going back to Miami. If they can play good at home. Like, I want to see Game 1 Miami. Maybe they got to bring out, the yellow jerseys again. They got to think they're the Indiana Pacers. And then maybe they can get back into their
jerseys out.
What?
Like, I don't want, like, the pea-stained yellow
jerseys the mustard yellow jerseys, baby. Bring them back. I don't want those back. No, bring out the Miami Vice jerseys for Game 3. That's what they should bring out, the Vice ones. But, like, this is basically the situation, but it's a must-win. It's a must-win for Miami in Game 3 because the thing with the Bucks, and, I mean, Dave and Jake kind of hit this yesterday talking about Game 1, and it's true with Game 2, is like I'm just looking at Giannis alone. Giannis balled out, had 31 more points than he had in Game 1. Yeah, he didn't shoot well from 3, but when does he ever? I know it's improving. He basically, like, he is taking over games. He's leading the team. You're looking at minutes played. He had 46 in Game 1, overtime game. He had 31 in Game 2, to where I almost want to ask the question is this Bucks team for real? I use the quotes because really it's like any team in the playoffs are for real. I just look at it and I go, are we finally looking at a Bucks team where Mike Budenholzer has finally effing learned, hey, I have to play my stars more than maybe what I want to in a playoff game because it's a playoff game and we're not going to win unless Giannis and Chris Mid and Drew are playing almost 30 points a game. Or 30 minutes a game, I should say.
And I think that's one of the major things we've seen from Bud. Like, we have seen that Miami isn't, he essentially kind of took what he learned last year against the Heat and seems to have turned that around. The only thing is just whenever I look at it, and once again, I'm not trying to take the conversation away from the Bucks, but it feels like more of the Heat aren't doing what they did to the Bucks last year. Because last year, they basically were like, all right, like, I don't want to use the Stan Van Gundy line too much, but, like, they formed a fucking wall. Because they're like, all right, Giannis has to score over one of us. Like, let's just all basically be down here. And obviously, this Bucks team's a lot better than the one from last year.
Yeah.
But, I think we're seeing this Bucks team finally being able to bring someone in from the bench. For instance, like Bryn Forbes, obviously... I like Bryn Forbes.
Anthony in chat saying that Bryn Forbes Supermax incoming. Did he earn the Supermax last night? Scoring 22 off the bench.
It's coming. Yeah, I think they finally have people that they don't have to worry about, like, when their bench comes in of it just being like garbage. Yeah. But I think this is one of the things that Bud really learned of. Essentially, he has to at least keep one of the three. I don't want to say stars because I don't really think all three of them are stars, but like they have to at least keep either one of Giannis, Middleton, or Holiday on the court. Yeah. And I think now with the availability of Bryn Forbes, Pat Connaughton off the bench, and having just other people you can feel reliant on bringing in, like even if you want to like for a little bit have Middleton be the best player on the court, you can bring in a PJ Tucker to basically be like, okay, cool. We're going to match big body, Bam versus PJ Tucker. Obviously, Bam should win that matchup 90% of the time. Yeah. But like it's basically, they finally have comparable people they can switch into the game without being like oh, Giannis is out, we lose.
Well, and the other thing to me that I was thinking about is not just do they have like competent people that they can switch in when they need it. Based off these two games, I kind of almost think of because with me, I thought this series was going 6 or 7. And there's a part of me that thinks it will still go 6 or 7 because the thing you got to think is this is how I think the rest of the season is going to go. You ready? Miami will take both games in Miami, home court advantage. They will tie the series up. It will go back to Milwaukee. Milwaukee will win. And then it'll either advance into a game 7 or it'll end in game 6. Like the thing is that I look at this, I'm going to kind of use some Pat McAfee verbiage here with my analogy is think of this like a boxing match. Right away, the Heat came out. They tried to punch the Bucks right in the mouth. Right in the mouth. That's what they tried to do. But the Bucks stood tall. They're like, hey, we're winning on a last-second shot. And yesterday I kind of pissed Jake off because I said, oh, the Bucks got lucky in game 1. Really, if you win on a last-second shot, fuck it. LeBron's game against the Warriors, he got lucky because a game-winning shot is 50-50, no matter what it is. You can't take it away from the Bucks, though. They hit the shot in game 1. They faced the adversity. They came out with the W. That's the end of the story. Game 2, though, it's kind of like, okay, you punched me in the mouth. Now I'm going to punch you in the mouth. And that's what the Bucks did. They punched him right in the mouth. And this is where game 3 is going to be the telling story for me. Is yet again in a boxing match, this kind of happens bing, bang, boom. It's a shorter time. Playoffs is longer. But are the Bucks, or not the Bucks, are the Heat going to be able to get back up after the Bucks gave them the knockout punch? After they hit them right there and they said, all right, stay down, are the Heat going to get back up? If they win game 3, they're getting back up and they're going to have to continue to get back up in game 4. If they lose in game 3, it's a sweep. Like, I either see this going 6 or 7 and it being competitive, or I see it being a sweep by the Bucks. How you doing? Let's go on to the second round to play the Nets.
Yeah, and I'm starting to lean that way as well. Of like, I think it's going to be a sweep,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just the fact of I think lineup change needs to happen with this Heat team because
Okay.
obviously Ariza on Giannis is not working.
Yeah.
Like it is not working. There needs to be an adjustment here, and I
What do you
think
have Bam on? Do you have Bam on Giannis full time?
See, the only problem with doing that though is like, do you then move Deadman into the starting lineup? And like that's the Deadman's not bad. Like I'm not wording it like that.
He
But
did
like,
have 19 points off the bench in 21 minutes yesterday.
yeah, it's just mostly my main problem with that then of you know he's matched up then with Brook Lopez, and like obviously Brook hasn't been phenomenal. He's
Mm-hmm.
not. He's not like a holy shit. Like we need to focus on Brook Lopez to this insane extent. But you need to find something of like if you need to start Deadman to kind of match up to the size.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Deadman's not that tall of a player if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But like you need your best defender on Giannis this whole game, and I don't think like essentially having Ariza and Butler guarding him the whole game is really doing anything because he's cooked them in both games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you need someone who's a big body like Bam, who's quick enough to keep up with them, and obviously let me check the free throw numbers so I don't sound like a goofball. Like he only shot 7 free throws.
Yeah.
I know people are gonna be like, well, that's a lot. It's like for Giannis normally who shoots like 10 a game.
Yeah, you got to get
like,
to the line more when you're Giannis.
Yeah, and obviously if the refs call it, if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just kind of how foul calls go in the NBA.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't.
Yep.
And I think it's this Heat team. They need to figure out something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the major things is essentially they need to see if they can find a way to get Hero going. And like this is the thing. I've last year was very vocal about how fucking Miami Heat fans annoyed the shit out of me about Tyler Hero.
Because they let you hear about him. They let you hear about him.
Yeah, dude, because they lost the fucking finals and I kept seeing the fucking snarl everywhere I looked on Twitter. It's like, alright, cool, you lost the fucking game, bud.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but basically I think it's just they need to try to find some way to get him going. Like, obviously, Duncan Robinson has played better than him the entire series. Even that, Duncan Robinson didn't play good this game. Like, I think they need to find some way to. I mean, I'm trying to think of just even looking through the roster. I think they need to make moves this offseason. They need. And it's going to sound like I'm basically not pulling like a blow it up. They need to move their young people. Because. If you want to win with this Miami roster, you cannot win with like KZ Okpala getting minutes, Precious getting minutes. Like I want to say even Hero getting minutes because we've seen Hero is literally hot and cold.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to be willing to move on from these young pieces because if you don't, you're just going to be stuck in this place. Like you got lucky in the bubble last year.
Yeah.
And I'll even say that. Like I rated them too high because of the bubble. I ignored what they were doing throughout the regular season. I just looked at it as like, okay, whatever. It's the regular season. Teams will turn it around.
The one thing I'm going to interject and kind of cut you off with is the stat that I look to is 3-pointers from the games. Because if you look at game 1, the Heat made 23s. The Bucks made 5. Bucks still won by 2. They survived. Game 2, the script flipped. The Heat only made 5 threes. The Bucks made 20. I don't know if the Bucks are continually going to make 20 each and every game. I don't even think the Heat are going to do 20 each and every game. But are we going to find a middle ground where all season Miami has averaged about 13 made threes a game this year. Milwaukee's at about 14.5. So they're in the same ballpark. The last 3, they're very similar. Miami 13.7, Milwaukee 13. Flat in the last 3 made 3s. So like that to me, whoever makes the more threes and the team that limits if Tyler Hero can't get going from 3, if Duncan Robinson can't get going from 3, the Bucks are going to have an easy time. Last question I want to ask you about the Bucks before we move on into the and oh no says on the upside Jimmy took 0 threes in game 2, which is good because they were giving him the green light in game 1. He was just missing them all because he's not a 3-point shooter. I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to bait you into it. I don't know how I feel yet. I have to see game 2 tonight between the Nets and the Celtics. If this Bucks team dominates game 2, dominates game 3, dominates game 4. Can this Bucks team beat the Nets? Can they beat the big 3 in the second round?
See, it falls into that weird category of like they match up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'm just mainly concerned about is like obviously all three of their I don't want to say Bucks big 3,
Yeah.
but like their 3 best players match up really well.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, I don't think you shut down all 3 of the big 3.
Yeah.
And the fact of like
someone's gonna pop off.
More...
Someone's gonna get theirs every night.
Yeah, Joe Harris, my guy, the best 3-point shooter in the NBA. Or sorry, most consistent 3-point shooter in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I want to say they could bring it to 6 or 7, but the Heat, it's mostly or not the Heat with the Nets. I think it's just like their bench depth is gonna prove that like the Bucks are a deeper team.
Yeah.
Who knows, dude? By that point, Spencer Dinwiddie could be back.
He could. Spencer Dinwiddie could be back. You are right. Yeah, I just don't know how to, like, the thing is, I know that people say, oh, well, the Bucks have matched up with the Nets all year. They beat them every game they played. I looked at it and I went, but all the big 3 for the Nets didn't play this year. They didn't have the big 3 out there at one time. I know you're on the side of you think the Nets are going to have some injury that ends up hurting them. But like the Bucks, I think that it's good that they're dominating the Heat, or dominated them in game 2, I should say. They did not dominate them in game 1. But really, second round is their test. Can they get past the Nets? I don't know if a healthy Nets team, if I'd be willing to put the Bucks over them yet. Anthony says if the role players shoot 3 of 5 threes and make Giannis the anchor of the defense, then I can see Milwaukee winning everything. Maybe. Hey, the Sixers then are another team. I think it comes down Sixers, Nets, Bucks. I think those are the top 3. But everyone, that's the top 3 that they had. Soapy, let's quickly pivot, go to the West. The other game that was on last night, Nuggets even the series against the Blazers. They win 128-109. To me, this game was simple. Jokic showed up, took most of the scoring load. And the big guys we saw for the Blazers step up in game 1 were not there in game 2. CJ had the same amount of points, 21, so he was a net even. Lillard had 42, but you look, Carmelo only had 5. Anthony Simons only had 3. The 2 guys, and I look at Simons and Melo, popped off in game 1. They didn't pop off in game 2. Is this how this series is going to go in your mind? Or is this something to where it's like, hey, something is wrong. The Blazers need to change something.
I think, and I even said this at the end of the first game, I think, and obviously I'm the only one with the prediction of the Nuggets making it past the first round.
Yep.
And granted, that's just my hate boner against the Trailblazers. I think the Trailblazers aren't a good team.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a team that they overachieve.
Yeah.
And basically, I mean, it's the fact, dude, Nurkic got shown his dad. Jokic was like, all right, come here, son. You were behind me on the bench in Denver. I'm going to show you where you were behind me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think this Trailblazers team is too reliant on players that are just hot and cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of those things like, obviously, CJ shot really well from the field. The only thing is, this team can't keep the ball in their hands to save their lives. Like, they got Butterfingers on the court.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're making stupid passes. They're not, playing smart. And, like, the fact that there were times that they were like, all right, Nurkic is getting beat. Let's bring in Cantor. Oh, why? If Jokic is still on the court, you don't want Cantor anywhere near that. Like, obviously, he's a better rebounder than Jokic, but, like, there's a reason that the whole...
Though.
Yeah, like, there's a reason why you don't want Cantor matched up against Jokic. It's because the fact of it is literally a situation of Jokic will look at that like, oh, it's barbecue chicken. It's free game.
Yeah.
Like, let me just do what I have to do. And obviously, the Nuggets don't really have a bench center. Like, they have Bol Bol.
Mm-hmm.
Like, JaVale McGee's there, but, like, he just doesn't play for some reason, which I don't know why.
Yeah.
But, like, basically any of the time that, like, it just... I don't believe in this Blazers team. And, like, obviously, I think it's just a. I think people massively underestimated how good this Denver team is. Because obviously, they're playing without their second best player in Jamal Murray.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I even said, to you in private, whenever I was talking about my bracket with you, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't think they need Murray to beat this team.
Yeah, and I mean they proved they didn't need Murray to beat this team, but like, and Eric says that Portland is on a mismatch outside their backcourt. I mean, for me, this comes down to the role players. Like, it comes down to for the Blazers, everyone outside of Dame and CJ, and for the Nuggets, everyone outside of Jokic and Michael Porter, because like these two teams literally took a 180 where the Blazers won 123 to 109. The next game, the Nuggets win 128-109. Literally pretty much a 180 where like it was almost the same score both ways with different winners. And like I look at it and it's like, okay, game two I mentioned, Melo only had 5. Simmons only had 3 points. In game one, Melo with 18, and Anthony Simons with 14. Same thing for the Nuggets. Like, you look at like Jokic got his points. Michael Porter had 25 game one. He only had 18 in game two. But like, I'm looking at the bench and Paul Millsap, he had way more points. He had a way better game in game two than he did in game one, to where that's what I feel like. It's going to come down to the players outside the main two for both teams. And some people might say, well, Ricky, that's duh, because that's any playoff series, is you need the whole team to come together. But like, this is a series that I think is not over. Even if the Blazers win game three, I don't think it's over. I wouldn't be surprised if these two are just trading punches, where it's like Blazers win, they go up. Nuggets win, they tie it. Blazers win, they go up 2-1. Nuggets win, they tie it. However, the only thing that happens there is if we go down that route, then it's like, okay, well, Portland's going to win then, because you get to 7 if you trade off enough. Or if you're like, oh, they'll trade off, it'll go tied 3-3, and then anything can happen in a game 7.
Yeah, and it's just as well on top of that. Like, I do think the role player is going to play a really important thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the Nuggets have figured, like, they kind of in game one realized, like, Dame's going to get his no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Okay, let the other guys try to score. Like, obviously, and they got Melo in foul trouble really early on. Melo finished the game with 5 fouls.
Yeah.
Essentially, like, Melo, if they wanted him out there, couldn't do anything. And that's the thing. You need to attack. You need to basically have it to where it's like, oh, okay, if Melo can pop up, get him in foul trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want Melo on this court. Make them, get into the reserves. Like, obviously, we saw a lineup, at times we were seeing Nasir Little out in the court.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, at that point, they'd be like, listen, you may be fine in the regular season. You're dinner. Like, you are, like, your prime target numero uno. Like, it is literally... This Nuggets team, I think, has realized, like, if you start getting rid of... Not even, like, the depth the Blazers have, because they don't really have too much depth to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But more of a... If you get rid of, like, those bench pieces,
Yeah.
they start... like, they have to bring out the players that they're like... I mean, do we have to play them?
Mm-hmm.
Can we just give those those fouls to the other guy?
Yeah.
Because I think if you can force out situations that you're forcing them to bring out Rondé Hollis Jefferson, forcing them to bring out T.J. Leaf, like bringing out Derrick Jones, Nasir Little, if you can force them to bring those guys out, you're beating this Blazers team every time.
Yeah, and like, I still am for it. I think the series goes 6 or 7. I think it's going to be a long, drawn-out series between these two teams, because they are good teams. However, if the Nuggets had Murray, it'd be a different story. I don't think it would have been 6 or 7.
I mean, to be honest, if they had Murray, I'd say 4.
Yeah,
I think this would be a slaughter.
5, then it would be. Both these teams will get 2 days off, so they will play Thursday, along with the Suns-Lakers game 3. So Bucks and Heat, Nuggets and Blazers, both playing on Thursday. But Soapy, the thing we're going to end the show with, the rest of the show is about this, is you and I had a conversation. We had one conversation which kind of led into another conversation. I want to have both of those. I was like, hey, this is getting really good. Let's save it. I want to have this on the show. And it was all about the news that the NBA will be pursuing or seriously pursuing an NBA mid-season tournament. This idea I hate. I hate it with a passion because every single year we hear players bitch and moan, and I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just using that verbiage. They complain, they bitch, they moan that, hey, we don't get enough time off at the All-Star break. That's why you see some guys where it's like, oh, well, I'm hurt for the All-Star game and can't play. Because they just want to fucking rest before they have to go and play the second half of the year. If that's the case, why the hell would the NBA want to add a mid-season tournament that would literally mean absolutely nothing? It would be doo-doo paper.
I think it's just the fact of the NBA is trying to squeeze in more games into the season because obviously they know players don't really care for the current formula of games, mostly because of the fact of,
what does that say about your regular season, though, if you're trying to add a mid-season tournament to get players and people excited?
I don't think it's more of players. I think it's more of like they're trying to give teams incentive to. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. Like essentially how like people people tune in for All-Star Weekend because obviously people watch the All-Star game because who doesn't want to watch that much talent on one basketball court? But like for instance, it's All-Star week or just All-Star break really isn't even like I don't want to say that fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, okay, like the dunk contest have kind of been the last couple years.
Well, that's because the big stars don't want to do them because they don't want to play. They don't want to risk injury. Like, I get it, but it sucks when the big players don't want to come to All-Star Weekend except for, like, LeBron. Don't want to do the slam dunk contest. I'll come to the game. That's all I'm coming to.
Yeah, and I think it's just the NBA, I think, is just trying to get more revenue out of the season in general. And maybe just like going forward, they're probably gonna try to find a way to have the All-Star break and a halfway through the year tournament. And it's like, why? Just stop. Like, they're trying to put incentives on it. The only thing that
what incentive is there to win the tournament? Have they? I think
it's like a guaranteed playoff spot or something like that.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was something like that. It was like you're like playing for like a playoff spot or some stupid shit like that.
I gotta look this up. Keep
I think
going.
that was like from like a year or two ago that they talked about that. And obviously I could be completely fucking wrong and I'm just making shit up as I go.
Yeah.
But like I think it's just the idea that giving someone like a guaranteed playoff spot, like what's stopping that team then from fucking tanking?
Mm-hmm.
Just being like, all right, fuck it, we're not gonna try for the rest of the year. We're guaranteed. Yeah. Let's rest our players the whole year. Like, I think it's just the idea that, like, a mid-season tournament just poses this weird idea of, like, oh, we're going to make it competitive halfway through the year. Like, my guy, it's still competitive halfway through the year. You have people competing for playoff spots.
Yeah.
Like, if you're looking to make stuff more competitive, and we'll probably get into this conversation later on, like, find a way to get it to where even bad teams have incentive to play better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, try to have it that, you're not trying to push fucking teams at the top to play even like harder because it's like they don't want their guys to get hurt. Like if my players got hurt in a stupid tournament, like I'd be fucking pissed if I was an NBA team.
So what I see on it is let's see. NBA is eager to restart conversations with its team and its players association about adding a midseason tournament. Commissioner Adolph Silver, a proponent of the idea, has gained optimism that the success of the play-in tournament could drive momentum to re-engage teams on another tournament idea. Doesn't say what they like. That's the thing. What do I get if I win? If it's a meaningless trophy, what the fuck do I want to play in that for? Like, if it's something where, like Anthony says, the reward of giving players who are on the winning team $1 million each, like, So what? I'm gonna risk an injury for $1 million? Whatever. No, thank you. I agree with Anthony. Like just risking more injury. No fucking thank you. This brought up a conversation though of okay, let's say the midseason tournament's a bad idea. The play-in tournament, I'll be honest, I'm against the idea because it devalues your playoffs. What are you telling fans about your playoffs if you have to add in more playoff spots in a play-in tournament? But with that being said, the West had two of the best games, like, all season. That Warriors-Lakers game was fire. That Warriors-Grizzlies game was absolutely fire. Hell, maybe it's just the Golden State Warriors are fire. But you and I had a discussion of, are there any other tournaments that the NBA could do if they wanted to do this tournament thing? And we kind of got on the topic of tanking. Because you and I share one thing in common, Soapy. We hate tanking. We hate it. What the Sixers did, it worked. I can't stand it. Because it basically promoted bad basketball. What the Thunder were doing this year, hated it. Because it's like we are basically not going to put the best roster out there in order to lose games. The question that I'm asking you, this was proposed in the Discord. It was originally thought of as like a nah, that would never happen. But then it's like, oh, maybe there's something here that we could think about. Would there ever be in your mind a tournament for after the season with teams that are not in the playoffs, a tournament to decide playoff seeding?
I mean, like lottery seating and stuff like that. I don't think so. Mm-hmm. And it's because I think at that point, like, you're gonna have a team like the Thunder that we knew they were tanking. I will not hear a single fucking argument that they weren't.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, they just so miraculously sat Al Horford all year. Mm-hmm. Oh, Hort got sat because he's the fucking Cade Cunningham tank commander.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, I don't doubt the Shea being hurt, but like, miraculously, like, in that tournament, like, oh, would you look at that? The Thunder are playing everyone again. Oh, like, I think that's just my main problem I have with it. Of doing a tournament like that would encourage a team that tanks all year to be like, all right, fuck it. Let's just be like, oh, they got healthy in the off season. By the end of the year, they were healthy. We were just making sure they were okay. Like, to have people like that, and obviously, I don't completely hate the idea of tanking. Like, obviously, like, I think teams do need to be bad. I think it's when you are blatantly doing it for year after year after year after year, that's when it gets bad. And, like, I'm not even a 76ers, like, tank. I'm not even, like, a process hater.
Yeah.
But I think it's just more of a... I think having it that you tighten down on the rules for, essentially, like, the draft, because personally, for me, I don't like the lottery.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's wherever you... Like, I liked how the NFL does it, of, like, wherever you finish is where you finish.
Well, was it... No, it was JD. So, I was talking to JD, and he did not know that the NBA does not do the same thing as the NFL. Where the NFL, basically, the teams that didn't make the playoffs, we know that, no lottery. But the teams that make the playoffs, it's basically... If you lose in the first round, those 4 teams based off win percentage and head-to-head in that, boom, they get put out. Then if you lose in the second round, those 2 teams are next. If you lose in the final or the conference finals, those 2 teams are next. And then the Super Bowl loser with the Super Bowl winner. He did not know that the NBA just went off a regular season record because, like, I pointed out to him, like, last year, Miami made it all the way to the finals. If we used NFL ruling, the Heat would have the 29th pick in the NBA draft last year. But because we don't do that and we go off of regular season, they had the 20th pick. And with him, he was like, well, that's bullshit. They made the finals. I was like, hey, that's just how the NBA does it. And I know I've seen a couple of comments already. I was going to get to them. Anthony says maybe a draft tournament for lottery spots. Eric kind of says the same thing. What about a tournament for lottery teams for the number 1 pick? You and I kind of discussed this. We'll discuss it again. The one thing I do not like about, hey, we're going to do, let's say you were like, we're going to do a 14 team tournament to decide who is the number one pick in the NBA draft. Whoever wins it is basically number one, and we'll decide the other seedings throughout the tournament. Here's what I don't like about that, Soapy. Let's say, for the sake of argument, I know it didn't happen, but just for the sake of argument, let's say the Warriors beat LeBron and then the Grizzlies beat LeBron, right? The Lakers wouldn't have been in the playoffs, correct?
Yep, they would have been out.
Why then would I give a tournament to a team that is, they would be the number 14th seed, so they'd be playing the worst team theoretically in the NBA with the worst record. A team that barely misses the playoffs should be able to run through this play-in tournament. Now, I know some people out there, devil's advocate, would say, look at the play-in tournament, look at March Madness. When things come down to a one-game playoff, it does no longer, like, best team is out of the occasion. It's, you have to basically, and in this format, let's see, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matchups. So, fuck, even at that point, like, 7 matchups wouldn't work. You'd have to basically, let's say, give a team, if we gave one team a bye, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'd have to give 2 teams a bye. So 2 teams a bye on each side, 3 matchups on each side. Like, I mean, I'm looking at it and it's like, even in a 1-game playoff, the team that just missed the playoffs should be able to run through this tournament. And really, is that fair then to the teams at the top? The idea that I pointed out, this is what I pointed out. I'm going to get your thought, even though I know your thought, so everyone else can hear your thought. I said Twitch chat. We're no longer on Twitch. YouTube chat, comment section. I want to get your thoughts on this, because this is what I proposed. You know how we have basically the top 4 have like unique odds where it's like 1 through 3 have improved odds for the top 4 and number 1. And then looking here, it's 4 and 5 have lesser increased odds, and then it's down from 6 through 14. What if we did a tournament in the offseason or along with the playoffs, because these teams are not playing? Instead of a draft lottery, it's a 4-team playoff. You do it just like the play-in tournament. So basically, it's, for this year, it would be Houston and Oklahoma would play game 1. Detroit and Orlando would play game 2. The winners of those would move on to a game to play for 1 and 2. The losers would move on to a game to play for 3 and 4. So theoretically, if the Thunder beat Houston and then the Orlando Magic beat Detroit, Detroit and Houston could be playing for the 3rd overall pick. Winner gets the 3rd, loser gets the 4th. YouTube chat, I want to get your thoughts on that, Soapy. I know your thoughts, but to tell everyone else, what do you think about that? Could that be an alternative that the NBA looks to for the lottery if they want to add a tournament at all to boost revenue?
Yeah, I think it's just, I personally don't like that idea to begin with, and it's mostly because, it's like I brought up with you, it's like, the Pistons weren't a bad team, it's just that they kept losing all year.
Yeah.
So, like, it's essentially like...
They stopped playing Jeremy Grant, too.
Oh, I mean, he got hurt, so, like, actually hurt.
Yeah, got hurt, but then even at the end of the year, it felt like, well, we're just going to keep you out the rest of the year.
Well, yeah, I mean, they didn't want to play him, like, 40 minutes a game. But,
exactly.
Like, it runs into a situation of, like, okay, like, the Thunder at that point would stop tank commanding, and they'd fucking be like, oh, hey, we got Shea back, Al Horford's back, Lou Dort's back, we got all these people back, let's run it. Like,
yeah.
They basically would run through the Rockets, and then, like, against the Magic, like, the Pistons should win, because the Magic aren't a good team.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and obviously I'm not trying to be like, oh, the Pistons are the best fucking team in this tournament. Like, because I'm not trying to show my bias for my own team. But, like, and then at that point, it's like, okay, Like, you're essentially punishing a team like the Rockets who are actually just bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because then at that point, like, they're arguably worse than the Magic are.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously, like, they're a team that needs, like, I'm not saying needs a number one pick, because obviously
Mm-hmm.
every team has a point to make for, like, oh, we need a number one pick.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I think it's just have it to a team with the worst record gets the number one pick. I don't like the idea of doing a
Mm-hmm.
tournament for it, and not even like the whole like, oh, bad basketball, because obviously I like watching the Pistons and they're my team,
Yeah.
but it's just it feels like it punishes a team like the Rockets that they just stink.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, they literally then get matched up with with like the best team of the four,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Magic get matched up with the second best team of the four,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, so it's literally just gonna be. And then, like, the fight for the one seed is just the fucking tank commander fight of
Well,
the year.
and that's the thing. Like, and one more time, because Eric in chat said, so basically a playing tournament for the bottom four. I'll explain it one more time. So basically, you play the season, you do the order as it is, as it lies. Play it as it lies. Then you take the top four. The team that would have the number one pick plays the team that would have the number four pick. Or you could say one plays two, however you want it. Basically, two teams play one game, two teams play the other game. Winners move on then. Or you could do it randomly. You could say, okay, we're going to draw in a pot these top four teams. These are the matchups. The winners move on. They play for 1 and 2. Winner gets 1, loser gets 2. The losers of that first game play a game where the winner gets 3, the loser gets 4. That's what I was kind of throwing out there. But, like, the big thing that you and I were talking about, and this is kind of what our conversation went to, is, and I'll ask you, to eliminate tanking. Like, that's the thing. If I was going to add this tournament to the NBA, which I like way better than a mid-season tournament, like, the reason why I'm adding it is to eliminate tanking. So it's like, I get the thing of like, oh, you're punishing the Houston Rockets, who are just a bad team this year. But let's be honest, they were not trying to be good. But I'm not saying the Rockets were tanking. The Thunder were blatantly tanking. Hey, Al Horford, don't play when you got such a big contract. We're just going to sit Shea Gilgeous gets injured. We're just going to sit him the rest of the year. Lou Dort, we're going to rest him. The Al Horford special is what we're going to give Lou Dort. Like, they were basically blatantly tanking. Like, that's what I would try to, like, that's the thing with this is, does this get rid of that? Of like, okay, you tanked for a top 4 seed, but now you got to win 2 games to get that. Like, let's say the Thunder actually, or like the Sixers when they did, tanked for the number 1 pick. Great, you got the number 1 pick, but now you got to win 2 games to get that number 1 pick. You got to fucking earn it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does a little bit. I think, though, at the same time, you run into a situation where a team will be like, all right, we'll tank just enough to get the 4th and then just run with the tournament.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's just where the problem of it starts. Of essentially, like, teams that, you know, obviously weren't tanking ending up in the top 3 or, like, just even top 4. Like, okay, like, essentially why... I mean, obviously the Magic are, like, the 3rd pick. But, like, for instance, they would have a chance to get the number 1 because they have the 3rd highest odds of getting it. At that point, they could be like, oh, cool, we're already fucked because of injuries.
Yeah.
Now we also just got fucked out of a draft pick because we got matched up with a team that doesn't have that many injuries. Because by this point, the Pistons are healthy.
Yeah.
Like Jeremy, like that whole team was healthy by the end.
Do you have confidence that the Pistons would win a tournament against the 3 other teams to get the number 1 pick?
I mean, we'd get the 2nd seed. I don't know if we could beat that Thunder team when they fucking come out of tank mode. And they're like, oh, hey, guys, remember when we were a fringe playoff team at the beginning of the year?
So I'll ask you, do you... The little change I made, do you like it better that, like, hey, the 4 teams go into a hat and you kind of have a, like, lottery drawing for the 2 matchups?
I mean, I like it in a sense. It's just, I think if you want to stop tanking, punish people for tanking. Don't, because, for instance, it was like the thing I said, and obviously it's a very harsh punishment.
Yeah.
And, like, this may just be being like a fucking authoritarian. I don't think that's how you say it. Authoritarian, my bad.
Authoritarian, yeah.
Like,
Adolf Silver.
if a team is blatantly tanking like the Thunder, take the draft pick. Be like,
Yeah.
no, you're not fucking doing that.
Mm-hmm. And
We're not standing for it. Obviously, I know people would be like, well, that's too, that's too harsh. The only thing is, like, if you don't want tanking, you have to put your foot down. Don't be like, don't dance around the rule and punish everyone else because one team tanks.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, Anthony brings up a good thing in chat where he says, to be honest, I'll just do it NFL style, no chaos, straight to the point. I'd love to do that. Here's the only caveat with that with the NBA in my mind. Unlike the NFL or any other sport, I feel like, and this is my personal opinion, I know that I've had this conversation with Jake, and me and him don't see eye to eye, which is fine, and it just starts an argument. But I look at tanking as a big, like, the league that has the biggest problem with combating it is basketball. NBA has the biggest problem combating tanking because, like, you look at baseball, doesn't really matter because most of those guys, they're going to be in the minors for 2-3 years unless you get like a Bryce Harper, a Chris Bryant, generational talent. Hockey, same kind of thing. Like, unless you get a Connor McDavid or an Austin Matthews, like this year, the number one pick, JD's telling me, not that good. So, like, he might be in the AHL for a year or two before he comes up to the NHL squad. Football, like, there are some players, if you get a dominant pass rusher, if you get a quarterback, those are positions that can change your team overnight. But most times, it takes more than one player to flip a script on a football team. I know when I was talking to Jake, Jake was like, but look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady went to the Bucs, and they flipped everything. They had a team. Jameis Winston was the only thing holding them back, and Tom Brady propelled them forward. Like, you look at the Jaguars this year. You look at, like, the Colts were the only situation where it was like, okay, they're going to be good right away because they were a playoff team with Peyton Manning. He got injured. They tanked for luck. It was like a playoff team getting a number one quarterback. The Jaguars this year with Trevor Lawrence, they're not a playoff team. They got Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is going to make them better, but he ain't going to make them as good as Andrew Luck made a already playoff team in the Colts. Basketball is different, though. Yeah, every draft is different, but, like, if it's the right draft, Soapy, the right draft, that number one pick can fucking shoot your franchise to the moon. And the thing that I hate is that I know some people will be like, well, who matters? Like, it doesn't matter. Don't watch it. But, like, I think tanking just hurts your product to where it's like the NBA has combated tanking and has lost. And now they're looking to a midseason tournament and a play-in tournament to help make their sport more entertaining because by the end of the season, there's a handful of games that actually matter because without the play-in tournament this year, there wouldn't have been as many meaningful games down the stretch. And there's not meaningful games with the playoffs because all the non-playoff teams, like I'm talking about the Thunder and that, fuck it. We're not playing for anything. So, like, for me, they've let tanking take over like an infection. It is here to stay. The NFL, or not NFL, the NBA is now just looking for outside, like, hey, look it over here. We're going to do this to try to make the make the season more fun instead of trying to fix the problem, which is tanking that has taken over your sport.
Yeah, and as well, like, I do agree with you on the tanking. I think it's just, the main thing with it is you need to show teams, like, no, we won't stand you blatantly just being like, fuck it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, like I said, authoritarian me fucking taking away draft picks.
Yeah.
But, like...
Yeah, but that's no problem for Adolf.
I mean, true. Adolf strikes again. Yeah. I just think it's...
Especially with those calls on Embiid in Game 1, like, come on.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's just, the way I look at it, like you said, it's basically if you're a team that, like, obviously, like, I'll even say, like, to, like, the 10th seed in each
Mm-hmm.
conference, like, it's competitive.
Yeah.
You get to the teams at the very bottom, and, like, you're getting those teams that are like, why? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why am I trying? And, like, once again, like, if you get a team that they just blatantly sit everybody, and they're doing it the whole year, at that point, like, the NBA needs to step in and tell that organization, obviously, you don't have to fucking put them on blast in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have someone call them, like, hey, listen, we know you're tanking.
Yeah.
And, like, punish the team for doing it. Like, essentially, I know people are going to be like, oh, well, that's oversteps the boundary of what a commissioner should do. If you're trying to make your product better, you should punish a team for not doing something. Like, if a team is blatantly trying to be bad, like, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously I know people would be like, whoa, what about a team that blows it up? I think it's just the fact of, if a team blows it up, that team's going to be bad regardless. Like, the
Yeah.
Magic were a team that, like, they were what, like, the 11th seed this year or something like that before they blew it up?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that team was already bad, and they got rid of their two best
Mm-hmm.
players, and they stunk even more. That's an understandable of why they're in the top three. The
Yeah.
Pistons have literally nobody on that team that's a star. So, like, obviously, we have Sadiq Bey who's the fucking GOAT, but like, outside of that, no star. The Rockets blew up their team. The Thunder are just like, eh. I mean, we'd like Cade Cunningham. We'd like a chance at him. Like, they could have been a team that could have been in the play-in this year. Or hell,
So
they could have been the 8th seed at the end of the year.
I have an idea. I have an idea. Tell me what you think about this. Might be a little radical to some people, but so think about what the NBA did this year, right? With the play-in tournament, where they basically, if you looked at it, the playoff field went from 16 to 20 teams, right? Because you had four extra teams, being like, for example, Golden State, Indiana, San Antonio, and Charlotte were all involved in play-in games because of this play-in tournament. So really, the bottom 20 teams from 11 to 30 all had playoff aspirations. What if the NBA did this, Soapy, where instead of instead of conferences, they get rid of conferences. The only way you keep conferences is for scheduling purposes. Or fuck it. Say what this goes to what UI and JD were talking about one day. Get the schedule to work where you don't need conferences. Everyone plays each other an equal amount of times. And it'll work out for tiebreakers and stuff. But basically have it to where conferences do not dictate playoffs anymore. Top 20 does. So the top 20 teams in the league get into the playoff. That's it. That's your playoff. The thing I would change, and this is the radical thing that I think would piss people off, but I don't care, is I almost do like, and yet again, people are gonna say, "Well, you want to rule the week with a series. You get like NBA each and every day." I do it March Madness style, winner take all, winner one game, winner take all for each one. And the reason why I do that is because I am also filling in. There will be basically two tournaments that now co-run in the playoffs. Basically, you can say everyone's making the playoffs technically. It's just what are you fighting for? To where on one side, it's the top 20 teams record-wise fighting for a shot at the playoffs. On the other hand, the top 10 teams, number one in the draft order, number two in the draft order, get a bye. We get a drawn out bracket. They do it lottery style. They draw a bracket out. The NBA draft tournament. Top two teams get a bye. They're on each side as the top. You then get the remaining matchups. Winner take all games. We play a tournament between the top 10 teams to decide who gets the number one pick. Because here's the thing I will ask you to go into this. Is the like if they did that this year, The Pelicans would be the lowest seeded team because they had the best win percentage. Would the Kings or the Pelicans run away with that tournament, or would it be closer than if we included teams 11 through 14?
Yeah, I mean, just in my opinion, I think it should be just expand the playoff teams and don't do anything with the draft.
Okay.
Like, if I had to say something, essentially it's have the draft lottery be like 10 teams. Because that's the thing of like.
But if we did do it that way, just to answer my question, would the Pelicans run away with that tournament?
I think so. Okay. I think it would be Pelicans, King. Essentially, it'd be a West team to run away with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because the fact of you run into a situation where, like, a team that is a borderline playoff team is just like, we're not going to give a shit about these guys' health. Like, if this guy gets hurt, we got a chance at Cade Cunningham. We got a chance at JG4, Evan Mobley.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit if you guys want to sit. We're getting them.
Well, and the only thing, and this isn't to, like, fight the idea or anything. This is just in general. You know what the one thing the play-in tournament proved, which I think hurts the NBA? One-game playoffs are the way to go. Because I say hurts the NBA because you have less games that hurts your revenue, and all Adolph Silver cares about is cha-ching, cha-ching, money, money. But the play-in tournament has proved that to get the best to get the more entertaining product, the more oh my god product. Like, imagine this. Game 1 between the Heat and Bucks. Game 1 against the Hawks and Knicks. Could you imagine how much more what the fuck just happened if Trae Young hits that floater, and it's not just for a game 1 win, it's for a round 1 win, where it's like, damn, the Hawks won. The Hawks won that game. Like, that's where I think the play-in tournament proved that, hey, I don't care how you get it done, one-game playoffs are the way to go.
Yeah, the only thing is the NBA wants as much games out of their playoffs as they can. And obviously, if you expand the playoffs to 20 teams, and that's the thing, and like, I know some people would be like, oh, so you're adding an extra 4 while getting rid of conferences, because I'm sorry, I'll say right now, conferences is still the dumbest thing in basketball.
But here's the thing I'm going to throw out, and this is something I literally just thought of. You know how UI and JD were talking how to do it without conferences and like how to get the perfect number of regular season games?
Yeah.
You can literally all the games we are going to lose in the playoffs, you can just have a longer regular season. And if the Players Association goes, no, we don't want that, you basically just say, well, it's the same amount of games that we'd be playing normally. It's just instead of having this many playoff games, we're just shifting them to regular season games, which then gives a little bit of or you could do a thing of hey, if we need to take some games away, but we boost up the you can boost up the regular season and make to me, that would make the playoffs so much more impactful. Cause it comes down to the debate they had on First Take of which, basically was which championship is harder to win, the finals or, the Super Bowl. And Kendrick Perkins, our favorite announcer, favorite analyst, was the NBA. And everyone was like, duh, are you kidding me? Football gets one game. One bad day and your fucking season's over.
Yeah, and I mean, and I do like the idea of a one game playoff series. I think it's just shorten the fucking season. Mm-hmm. Because that's literally what players keep complaining about. They're like, Can we please stop playing fucking back-to-backs in different cities?
Yep.
If we're playing back-to-backs, have us play the same team twice.
Yeah, well, playoff teams didn't really get an off-season this year, but that's besides the point.
Well, yeah, but even just besides that, of and obviously, I know with the COVID protocols and everything, games getting delayed. The schedule was even more fucked up this year than it normally would be.
Yeah.
But you had teams playing 5 games in 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how many fucking games get delayed. You should never have to do that.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I know baseball has it where, like, teams will play multiple games in a week. But, like, with basketball, and obviously, I'm not trying to be like, oh, baseball is not that athletic. Like, obviously, I'm not going to bash baseball. I'll bash it for being boring. I won't bash it for that. But, like, it feels like, and obviously, this is just, like, kind of outsider looking in on it. Like,
Yeah.
baseball seems like it's not as demanding on your body. Because, I mean, hell, when you're not in the game, you're just sitting there. Like, you're waiting for the whole bullpen to go around and then.
You're right. Plus, I mean, like, yeah, there's a lot of games, but the main reason you're taking an off day is because you're literally playing every day. Like, that's the only reason there's off days for, like, some players. But, like, you're right. Like, the more inducive, like, sports, basketball, there's way more running around than there is with baseball. The only thing with baseball that I would say gets to that point is pitchers because like
Oh yeah,
they're using their arm and then it's like you see them like in the bullpen with the jacket if it's cold because obviously you don't want that arm getting cold when you want to go ahead and do it. Soapy, before we wrap up the show, Twitch chat has brought this to my attention.
YouTube chat.
Nets are our YouTube chat. Thank you. Yeah, the Nets are blowing the fuck out of Boston. It's 64-38 right now. And do you want to know who's leading the team in points for the Brooklyn Nets?
Yeah, I mean, dude, can we just end this series after this game?
Do you know who's leading the team in points?
Joe Harris.
It's your boy. Your boy 6 of 8 from 3, Soapy.
Yeah,
He's
dude,
8 of 11 from the field.
Like, I'm just saying, dude, can we just fucking end this series already? Like, I'm gonna point this out. I'm just gonna say it now. This just shows the fucking Eastern Conference is the most boring goddamn conference of them all.
Like we've been saying for years. We've been saying it for years.
Like, the West is fucking good.
Yeah.
West was almost entirely fucking upsets game ones.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, and then the East, it's like, oh,
LeBron left and we thought it was going to get better and it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, like, in hell, it's at the point of where it's just like, dude, fuck it. Just move all the fucking teams that are already winning up because they're going to fucking move on anyways. Like, the Hawks and Knicks is the only interesting series in the East because it's like, all right, Sixers, maybe 5.
Yeah.
Fucking Bucks are looking like it's 4. Nets are definitely 4.
Warriors look pretty good, but yeah, I agree with you. Like the West is way more competitive. Like I can't wait for Mavs Clippers tonight, even though I think the Clippers are gonna win.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's just this is why they need to get rid of conferences, dude. Like the fucking East is so goddamn boring.
It is. You are right. You are right. But that's going to do it for us today, Soapy. Thank you guys for being as great as you always are. YouTube chat was popping today. This was a really great show. This was a conversation that Soapy and I had it on Monday, or had it on Sunday, and I was like, we got to have this on the show. And it was even better with you guys chiming in as well. Remember, join the Discord server if you're not in it already. That link is down below in the description, whether you're watching live or after the fact. If you want to support us, check out patreon.com/MVPvids. Again, link down below. Thank you to our Patreon sponsor, Pat Hill. We're always live around 6 p.m. Central Time. Always follow us on Twitch, MVP_vids, for updates if we're not going live. But usually we're live every weekend, or weekday, pardon me, around that time. So go ahead and check it out. If you don't, they go now straight to our YouTube channel so you guys can check it out after the fact. Soapy and I will not be back tomorrow. Let me check the schedule really quick. I know it's NBA. I think it's Soapy and Dave. Yeah. I was going to say, I think it's you guys tomorrow. Then it's Dave and I on Thursday. Jake and Soapy on. We'll see if Friday happens.
The show that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, we'll see if Friday happens. So Soapy and Dave will be back tomorrow talking more NBA. Dave and I will be back on Thursday, and we'll see if Friday happens between Soapy and Jake, or if it's going to be Dave or I with either Soapy or Jake, because I still am convinced that you guys are the same goddamn person. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you for everything you guys do, and as always, have a good day, everybody.
Can't do buy on here. You stole my fucking bit.